My name is Arya Espahbodi. The paper I'm going to present is entitled Opportunity, Ethnicity, Gender, and CPA Exam Performance. As you can see, I have 4 other co-authors. I would like to take this time to acknowledge financial support from NASBA, as well as thanking the conference here at University of Hawaii for having us to present. Our research question is whether performance on the CPA exam relates to socioeconomic status, community segregation, and other measures of opportunity. The pass rate on the CPA exam is lower for African Americans and Hispanics than for Caucasians, and to a lesser extent for females than males. While the overall pass rate is only 44%, only 20% of African Americans, 32% of Hispanics, and 41% of female candidates passed the CPA exam between 2005 and 2016. These rates concern a profession, especially the persistent disparities across ethnicity and gender. Our study was inspired by the work of Sean Reardon and his colleagues at both Stanford and Harvard. They researched the impact of opportunity on academic performance and achievement gaps in K-12 education. They found variation in academic achievement is very large, correlated with the socioeconomic status of the families, and grows steeper as students progress through school and get older. Socioeconomic characteristics of the family also affect performance in higher education. For example, research by Long and Mabel find that persistence in Ohio public four-year colleges is highly associated with family income level. Specifically, the bottom 20% of income distribution students have the lowest persistent rate to college degree completion, even those who have scored a 25% or higher on the ACT exam. This in turn determines the opportunities available to students during and after college. For example, a more selected and larger university provides their students with access to relevant internships and employment by larger accounting firms who provide mentorship and financial support for CPA exam prep courses. If African American, Hispanic, and female candidates do not attend or graduate from these types of universities, then their performance on the CPA exam may suffer, explaining the observed difference in performance across ethnicity and gender. The roles of socioeconomic factors, community segregation, and other measures of opportunity in CPA exam literature, CPA exam performance has not been addressed by accounting literature. Our study looks to fill this one. Achievement gaps are among the most visible, large-scale educational statistics. Closing achievement gaps between traditionally advantaged and disadvantaged groups is an explicit goal of state and federal policy. By documenting achievement gaps on the CPA exam, mostly due to opportunity, educators, firms, and other stakeholders can develop and offer educational and professional strategies, which would allow firms to meet their diversity goals, in turn making society more prosperous. There's been a lot of literature about accounting literature about how CPA exam performance relates to both ethnicity and gender. I'll talk about a few. For example, Booker finds that the overall pass rate for African Americans is below the pass rate than any other ethnic group. Brossemer and Witten find that male candidates in Indiana were more successful on the CPA exam than females. Blind et al. And Myers et al. Confirm those findings of a lower female exam pass rate nationwide. In terms of university characteristics, many studies have shown that candidates from AACSB accredited, private, and more selective schools perform better on the exam. Middlestat and Morris find that candidates from nonprofit colleges perform better than those that their for-profit counterparts. Morgan and Bunker and Harris find that face-to-face accounting programs have a much higher average pass rate than their online counterparts. Blind et al. And Trinkle et al. Show that candidates were more likely to succeed on the CPA exam, given that they were a male, younger, received their degree from an AACSB or private college or university. Finally, Blind et al. Also show that candidates enrolled in a graduate program perform better. Similar to the extensive literature on accounting performance, educational research has also addressed exam performance relative to ethnicity and gender and socioeconomic conditions. Clayton and others showed that Caucasians generally perform better than African Americans and Hispanics in K-12 and college and higher education. Research by Fryer and Levitt and others show that females generally perform better in K-12 and university, while males perform better on professional and standardized testing. Several studies find social economic factors to be key predictors of adolescent academic progress and ultimately their educational success. Recent research by Reardon et al. Also reveals that the variation in performance in grades 3 through 8 is partially explained by socioeconomic and segregation factors. Lee and others further demonstrate that it's actually a conjunction between ethnicity and socioeconomic status that is the single most significant cause for contrast in K-12 academic performance. Many of us in this room are familiar with the 1950s court case Brown versus the Board of Education that resulted in the integration of the American public education classroom. They found that separate but equal by definition was not equal. However, while facilities are now in theory integrated, the educational opportunities for our students are not. Many K-12 students attend schools close to where they live. As a result, many young African Americans and Hispanics attend ethnically segregated schools with more low-income students. These segregated schools have lower financial resources. They are unable to offer the same opportunities as more prosperous schools, including recruitment and retention of teachers and counselors, and more rigorous and relevant course offerings. This table shows our base sample, those excluded for various reasons, and the final sample in exam sections, as well as the number of candidates by ethnicity and gender. The base, or the initial sample, comprises of exam sections over the 2005 to 2016 window, taken by candidates with a degree from a U.S. college or university and a score of at least 20 points. Scores of less than 20 are considered frivolous and therefore excluded. What else do we exclude? We also exclude all but each candidate's last attempt at each section, and we exclude observations with invalid or missing required NASBA, Department of Education, or Center for Educational Policy Analysis data. Here are the variables we consider in our analyses. The first 7, as well as numbers 12 through 17, are binary variables. I won't explain them unless you have a question afterwards, but for example, number 17, tuition high, being binary, a 1 correlates to a school that has a tuition of $20,000 or higher for a year, while a 0 is a school that's not $20,000 or more for a year. What did we hypothesize? Our hypothesis is that candidates' performance on the CPA exam is related to their socioeconomic status, segregation measures, and other measures of opportunity. To test our hypothesis, we first examined CPA exam performance across socioeconomic index, community segregation, ethnicity, gender, and other opportunity measures. And then we do a pairwise correlation between these variables. We then developed 3 logistic regression models as well as a survival analysis model. As you can see up here, the pass rate for African Americans and Hispanics is less than that of Caucasians. Pass rates on all 4 sections on the exam is 20% for African Americans, 31%, 32% for Hispanics, and 47% for Caucasians. African American and Hispanic candidates are slightly older on average than Caucasians and wait for, on average, for after graduation for longer to take the exam. Relative to Caucasian candidates on average, African Americans attend non-AACSB, for-profit, less selective, or a higher percentage of Pell Grant recipients, and attend low tuition universities. Except for the last 2 variables, these differences are much smaller, but also exist between Hispanic and Caucasian candidates. Differences on the gender line are also present but not as pronounced. For example, pass rates on all 4 sections is 47% for males and 41% for females. Female candidates are on average only slightly older than their male counterparts and take slightly longer to sit for the exam. The type of university a female candidate attends is also slightly different. The most interesting results, however, are the last 3 rows. CES all, segregation, African American, segregation, Hispanic. African American and Hispanic candidates come from less affluent and more segregated communities than Caucasians. Again, differences on the gender line are present, but not as pronounced. Looking at the correlation coefficients, African American candidates are less likely to pass all 4 parts and more likely to drop after the first attempt or section. The same pattern occurs for Hispanics and females. These results confirm that Caucasian candidates perform better than African American and Hispanics on the exam, and males perform better than females. As for variables unique to our study, Pell percentage is negatively related to pass all 4 sections and positively related to drop after the first attempt. Pell percentage is positive and significantly related to ethnicity African American and ethnicity Hispanic. The Pell percentage correlation suggests that African Americans and Hispanic candidates attend universities with a higher percentage of students on Pell grades, the graduates of which perform worse on the CPA exam. Community segregation measures, segregation African American and segregation Hispanic, are positively and significantly related to Hispanic ethnicity African American and ethnicity Hispanic, indicating, again, that African American and Hispanic candidates, on average, come from more ethnically segregated communities. This correlation coefficients on university characteristics and community segregation together confirm that African Americans and Hispanic candidates are from less affluent and more segregated communities. This table shows the logistic regression results for the first 2 models. The Logan model estimates the log of the odds that a candidate will pass all 4 sections or drop after the first attempt or drop after the first section. Candidates from universities that are more affluent, higher CES all, who attend more selective and higher tuition universities that offer graduate degrees, have a greater probability of passing all 4 sections of the exam. On the other hand, candidates from communities with higher levels of segregation between Caucasians and African Americans, who attend universities with higher proportion of Pell Grant recipients, or attend larger, nonprofit, and AACSB accredited universities, have a lower probability of passing all 4 sections. The signs of degree nonprofit and degree AACSB accredited are contrary to our expectations and the findings of most prior research. However, what is most interesting on this slide, most striking, are the coefficients of ethnicity African American and ethnicity Hispanic in the first model and the second model. In the first model, it is positive and significant. In the second model, it is negative and significant. That means, controlling for our opportunity variables, African Americans and Hispanic candidates have a significantly higher probability than Caucasians of passing all 4 sections of the exam and a lower probability of dropping after the first attempt. Overall, these results support our hypothesis that performance on the exam is related to measures of opportunity. The survival analysis predicts the probability that a candidate will pass all 4 sections of the CPA exam in 18 months, given that the candidate has not yet passed all 4 sections of the exam. The independent variables are the same as in the Logan model. We estimate the survival function using both a parametric and a non-parametric method. The results of the parametric model largely support the logistic regression results. However, the nonprofit status of the university and the socioeconomic status are insignificant. The nonprofit status of the university and the socioeconomic status become significant in the non-parametric survival analysis. Here is our first survival curve. This graph shows the survival curve by ethnicity. controlling for opportunity, we can see that Caucasians have the lowest probability of passing all 4 sections, followed by Hispanics and African Americans. Similarly, survival estimates by gender show that controlling for all opportunity variables, males have a lower probability of passing all 4 sections as their 18-month window closes. Gender results in non-parametric survival analysis is different than that under the parametric model, but it's more credible because the non-parametric model avoids the problem resulting from the violation of the distributional assumptions of the parametric model. Finally, future implications of our study. The first one is that future regulations for the educational requirements to sit for the CPA exam and to gain licensure should consider potential barriers that exist for underrepresented population segments. Second, the accounting profession will benefit by understanding the myriad factors that relate to its ability to attract and retain a diverse talent pool in today's marketplace, an expressed top priority of many firms. Third, academic accounting programs of all types have a vested interest in assessing the impact that their curricular and co-curricular strategies have on the professional certification success of their students. Finally, future research on the success factors in the CPA exam performance should control for the factors found to significantly impact the performance. Thank you for your time.